Hello, everyone. Let's see who's here. Hey, Joe. Hey, Buzz. So, back again. Me and Luna are back for more yarning about pirates and nautical stuff. And this time we have our good friend Nanogirl with us. So, it's always glad to have Nanogirl here with us. And I'm just going to yarn like pirates, talk about nautical stuff. A little bit here, a little bit there. Topics will be all over the place. I do have some interesting stuff, deeper stuff that most people not have thought about when it comes to pirates. But I definitely plan on talking about rum and grog, the beeswax, shipwreck, coins, doubloons, ashudios, realms, all kinds of stuff. And I even have some woo some myth, and possibly maybe a mythical pirate as well.
All right. Well, I put together a couple of thoughts. So as you go along, I'll throw in some things. And mine was more fun facts. Fun
Cool.
facts about pirates.
Yeah, so I just kind of sat down and some of the questions I had about an ordinary life of a pirate, and it was a hard life. I mean, I believe that Hollywood has heavily romanticized it because it was an easy way to make money. You always fantasize something and you put more money into it and improve it if it's a moneymaker.
Yeah.
But
Right.
so some of the like basic questions in an ordinary, if you're thinking about sailing, what is the difference between a buccaneer, a pirate, a corsair, and a privateer? I mean, was there any kind of criteria to become a pirate? Um, what kind of captain would you end up serving? What would happen if you couldn't comply with the captain's articles? I mean, what would happen if you didn't? Um, what kind of things would you do on a ship? What kind of ship would you even sail on? What would you do for entertainment? I mean, what would you eat? What would you drink? Just like just daily thoughts came into I wonder, and it was a hard life, but some of it was very, very interesting.
Well, if you don't have money, which is why some of these guys became pirates, right? They
Yeah,
didn't have money, or you were a sailor and you loved the sea, but you hated the captain you were serving. Like if you were in the military for that timeline, I was looking at why you might become a pirate. That would have been a reason. Maybe bad guys on the run, right?
yeah,
Or you were a slave, right? Or they conscripted you. And one of the things I noticed when I was doing this research is sometimes they were able to abduct a doctor, or they were
yep.
able to abduct people like that who could actually serve on the ship. They actually had farm animals on there. They
They
actually had
did.
cows
I
and
mean,
chickens.
if you were a carpenter or a doctor or a
Right.
surgeon, you were more than likely press ganged into a ship.
Right.
Like yeah, like the British Navy did. They were press ganged or shanghaied.
Right. Right. I don't think it was very easy to be on a ship at all. I mean, I personally, you know how you have some of those fears in your life. I cannot stand being on a ship. I love water. I love the ocean. I love the ocean, and I can do a motorboat, but I cannot do ships. I get first of all, I get seasick, and then if I can't see the land internally, I'm freaking out. You know how people say I have fear of heights. I do
Hmm.
not want to be on that water. Maybe in some other life, the ship sank and I was on it. So, yeah, I only have been on one cruise. I do not want to be on another one ever. I didn't think it was fun. I spent the whole time on deck drinking ginger ale just so I didn't feel more seasick.
Wow.
Yeah, that was my trip. Luckily, it was only 2 or 3 days.
And
Um,
so I wonder, and I don't have like any factual proof to back this up, but I wonder the term hangover, could that possibly have originated on a with the sailors on a ship because they literally hung their head over? They were hung over.
oh yeah. Well, I'll tell you, if you were like me, yeah. I didn't get that bad, but yeah, that makes total sense. Yeah, that might be where that that comes from. Yeah, absolutely. The other thing, so when I was doing some research here, these pirates started around the second century. Piracy rose in Asian waters after the fall of the Chinese Han dynasty. And then I was thinking, obviously, in order to become a pirate, you have to have ships. So
Hmm.
probably sometime around where you felt like you could sail your ship and get it out of the heart, like actually go out there. 13th century piracy rose in the Mediterranean. And late 14th century, English and French fleets combined their forces in battle against African based corsairs.
Hmm.
Hi, Luna.
Yeah, they were the Corsairs on the Barbary Coast.
Ah, okay. 1400s, Klaus Stortebaker, one of the most famous German pirates, was beheaded. 15th century, Chinese Ming dynasty regained their power over Asian waters. 16th century, rise in maritime technology and trade traffic between Europe, Africa, and New World gave rise to the piracy. Numerous towns are ransacked in the newly discovered America. Interesting. So 1557, conflict between England and Spain brought the rise of privateers. Now you were talking about how there was a definition of all these different what these different things are.
Yeah, well, a privateer essentially was a pirate with letters of marque from the monarch.
Mm,
Because there was a time when pirates were more profitable than the monarchy, and the monarchy is like, hey, we need to get on this. Here, you can have this, you can pirate, but we get this, this, and this.
right. Well, yeah, that's the kind of thing you think about when you think about the people that were like coming to like Columbus and some of these other people traveling to the New World or wherever they were going. Let's face it, the king and queen were expecting to get their money back,
Yeah,
right? So that meant gold, silver, anything that they could confiscate. And I'm sure if they hit a couple of ships on in the way in and the way out, that would be okay with them.
yeah.
Right.
You know what I mean? And it, as far as I can tell, ever since man knew how to build boat, there was always a need for sailing and pirating.
Right.
I
And
mean,
probably some people were really good at it.
the Phoenicians did it. The Vikings, I'm sure, did it.
Right. Right. Let's see. There was, let's see, 17. Now, what I was reading is the 1700s was when they executed but they had the highest execution of pirates those in during that time. So I guess they
Yeah,
finally
that was
think of
towards the
it.
end of the golden age of piracy.
Mm. So they said, okay, we're going to put an end to this, right? Trial and execution of famous Scottish pirate William Kidd, 1701. Interesting. Beginning of the end of the golden. Oh, there you said beginning of the end of the golden age of piracy, 1718. Infamous pirate captain Blackbeard died in battle. R.
But Blackbeard, he's probably about the Outer Banks, not very far from me. I mean, I two pirates from the later part of the golden age, for some reason, have always interested me. Were Sean Lafitte and Blackbeard.
Blackbeard was tall too. He was 6 foot, right?
I think so.
I think I read something like that. Yeah. Interesting.
But he was, as the colonies go, he was so well hidden that I
Mm,
think he met his demise around 1712. He was the way that he was able to get by doing what he did was because of Carolina at that time wasn't populated. It wasn't discovered. It wasn't explored. So it was virtually relatively unknown. So it was the perfect hideaway for Blackbeard. And other pirates knew about it because he had other pirates. One of the other pirates who would visit him was Stede Bonnet.
interesting. Huh. And what was the name of the pirate, the dreaded pirate in The Princess Bride?
Oh, I can't remember. It's
Um,
been a long time since I've seen The Princess
right.
Bride.
Because I think they all took turns being, hey, Donnie, hey, Buzzacino. If anyone remembers the name of, was it the feared pirate? It'll come to us.
It
But
will.
what's
So,
interesting
Joe and
is
Luna.
no one knew what they looked like, so they would step in and replace the pirates.
Hmm. I know that that period of time was a very, how can we say, it was covered up a lot because at the end of that time when they started killing all the pirates, that's what do they call it today? It's like a reset, like where they wiped history and rewrote it.
Mm,
Um, and we were having a yarn yesterday about what the pirates had seen in those times sailing. They would have known many a story that no one else knew because they went to different islands. They
right.
would have saw many things that we call myth now or legend, whatever, like sea monsters and things like that, different creatures and beings on different lands. They would have saw all that. So, and besides the fact that they worked for the royalty and then they didn't want them working for them anymore because they knew too much, they would have been a really good reasons to off them off at the end and slowly hunt them down one by one. And they were richer and looked better than the rich people because they stole all the rich people's clothes.
That's interesting. That makes a lot of sense that they saw things that the rest of us,
Yeah.
and then, you know, I'm sure we all would agree here that we've been lied to so much about what really went on, what's our real history, and all that stuff. Um, you got to wonder too, is this really 300 or 400 years ago? Did
Yeah.
did all this really happen the way they are saying it, even on you know Google? Is this real? I mean, or did we have much more advanced uh, ships that we just don't see now? Of some sort that they were. I mean, it seems kind of hard to imagine that they actually sailed away in a rickety wooden boat or ship, right? Do you know what I mean? Like, and weathered the sea. Did they have more? It kind of, when I was younger, I used to love westerns, and we all went in a covered wagon. How long would a covered wagon really last over all those miles? And there's not a road,
I
right?
always wondered about the wagon wheels. They would have broke every couple of days.
And they didn't set up shop with they didn't have any gas stations, and so you kind of wonder what did this all really look like. How long have they been playing this game, and that has affected us. And I'm getting the feeling like this last 150 200 years is when they really started ramping this program that they wanted things to change,
Mhm.
right? I kind of wonder. I'm not saying
No,
that.
no, I think you're right there, Sharon, because I said to Jules, in looking for material for this show, I realised that there isn't hardly any actual fact
Right.
being
There's not.
kept. Even in the clothing, um, to find the actual historical correct stuff is really minimal. And in doing that, I realised that hang on a minute, they're hiding this. Why are they hiding this? There should be more. There's more of everything else. I mean, you can find things way, way older than that and know everything about it. And they've got stuff. They've even got some of it in the museum. But when it comes to this, it's minimal. And then I realised the cover up. I'm looking at the cover up, and
Yeah.
another thing I noticed that in all the stories, they tend to show you all the bad stuff more than
Mhm.
the actual good things that were happening. And I think that's to turn you off, to make you think that now was the better time than ever. Um, and everything was bad back then. But
Or
I
we were
really,
stupider, or we were more ignorant, right? I don't think we were stupid back then. I'm
no,
beginning to think we were very, very smart. In fact, I think
not
we're stupider
smarter.
now. unfortunately.
I would like to think that we were smarter back then, because with each
That's what I'm saying.
generation, we seem to keep getting dumbed down.
Yeah.
That's what I think. I think we were smarter back then. And
Yeah.
I think that they've been dumbing us down. I agree. And you're right. When researching, I spent, a couple of different days researching this. And I thought, where's the facts? Where's a couple of pages of information? Where's history? I think you'd actually have to go to the library and get some books or something. And I was shocked, actually.
Yeah.
You're right. I hadn't quite, that's a good thing you brought up. Yeah, it's well said.
Yeah, that's the main thing I noticed. And we've got this, how could we say it, romantic fantasy about pirates.
Yeah.
Because looking at, like I said again, looking at the historically correct clothes, it's not what we think it is. All of it's not quite what we think it is. And that's what led me to believe, hang on, probably everything else isn't what we've led to believe either. And in talking to Jules, which we're going to show you some of the stuff, they looked after each other. Like she was telling me, when they lost a limb, they'd get compensated. Like that was back then.
The
Then
pirates,
believe that
the pirates had a democracy. They had the Brethren of the Coast. All of the pirates had a code. The privateers had a code. The captain would put his articles on the ship. More than likely, it would be outside of his quarters, but it was before you even set sail. You knew what you were getting in for, because you had to sign. And if you couldn't sign, you had to make your X. You had to make your mark, and you had to acknowledge the captain's articles. And you had to you knew what you were getting into, and you knew if you didn't comply with them, what would happen. You certainly knew about keel hauling, potential to be marooned, for all this other consequences of failing to comply with his articles. You knew what you were getting into.
I heard a lot of the fellas from the English ships and that, when they got caught, or Spanish or the other ships, a lot of them were happy to become pirates because they got treated better.
Yeah, they did. The pirates treat, comparing pirates to the people in the old day in the British Navy, the pirates were treated better. The captain treated them better. I mean, they were essentially, the sailors in the Navy were essentially working for rum anyway, so why not jump ship? You're still going to get your rum, and you're going to be treated better.
And in some way, the military back then probably was stealing anyway, so why not get better? Have more adventure, have more fun. I mean, I think that another thing that I would say is sailing and being on the ocean like that, it's a calling. I mean, you've got to be a certain kind of person that is an adventure to you, that you can handle that kind of isolation, that you're not going to get off the ship, right? Where, for a long time, maybe, you know what I mean? Certainly not within maybe a couple of weeks. So if you love land and trees, and you're not going to have that, so you've got to be in love with the water, in love with the sea. And I think there are people like that it's like, this is my life. I'm looking for the adventure of the sea. And I think, the movies that have inspired me the most about oceans is the people that actually research it and understand that there is, like when you're on land, there is a season of, if you will. In other words, there's storms, there's times where you can't find fish, there's times you probably can, you're adrift, there's no air, right? There's no wind to pull your sails along. And I just, you have to understand the sea. You have to understand the ocean. So you have to be, and then you had to travel by the stars.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't have a navigation system. So you had to know astrology. You had to know how to.
You had to have a good navigator.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. By the stars. Yeah. I'll tell you something weird. When I was younger, I was in the kitchen one night. Everything was quiet. The kids were asleep, and I saw this being appear in my kitchen. Really, really, really big dude, and he kind of looked like a Viking kind of dude. and he was a sea lover, a sailor, whether he was a Viking or what. The point was that he sailed the seas. And what he showed me in his hand was a big rock. And he said there was only, I don't know, 5 or 7 of them. And on the rock, it had markings. And what they did was hold it up to the star, and it would correspond with the markings. That's how they knew where they were going. And they said, he told me that other countries back then were coming to get that stone. So they were killing their people and looking for these stones because they knew they were like navigator stones. And I remember having that vision, and it wasn't a vision. Well, it could have been a vision, but it was bloody real. I tell you, it was in my kitchen. I remember having that and thinking, okay. And then a little bit later, I actually saw an article about these stones they reckon existed, and I'm thinking, wow, that was real. The being appeared was real, and what he told me was true about these rocks. And the one he had was clear white colour. He said there were different coloured ones that you could see through, and the one he had was clear white colour, and they hadn't found that yet. That's what he told me.
That's brilliant. What a great idea. That way paper would get wet, right, and disappear on the ship. So why not put it on a stone and then have your big box of stones when you're navigating? God, that's amazing. I love that.
And they'd hold it up and match it up. But yeah, I thought it was amazing. Never heard nothing like it.
I hadn't heard of that. Yeah.
I think people back then were a lot bigger. Like, there were really big people and then our size people. I know when you said Blackbeard was like 6 foot something, I thought, yeah, that'd be right, because really big people existed back then, up to 8'4" and bigger. And being that big on a ship would be different to our size. You think about it, being really big and being on a ship, because I was looking at all the seafarers, and I knew the Egyptians were seafarers. The big Irish red-haired, white-skinned giants were seafarers.
Vikings were seafarers.
Yeah, a lot of seafarers. Polynesians.
Polynesian, yes.
Just Spanish were seafarers. Like, there's so many seafarers back then. There were all different kinds of ships. They were very large, so that makes me to believe there were larger people too, and that would make it different. If you're a bit bigger, you'd be able to handle things better, I reckon. But they're just thoughts I had thinking about pirates and that era. It's got to do with that time. And before pirates were actually a thing, I reckon pirates existed anyway. There must have been someone floating around going, this is an easy pick, I'll just...
Yeah, I mean, that's what I figured that history books leave out is, as soon as the first boat was on its way, sooner or later, man was like, oh, I can take that. I have a boat. I can get to it.
And there's always someone, like Sharon said, that loves the sea, and they're like, there must be land out there somewhere that we haven't had it on our map. And they've got this adventure spirit and this urge to go and find it. And they must have found things that we don't know about, obviously, because there's weird maps around.
Yeah, well, I kind of, it's like we were talking about Dark Journalist, and he's talked a lot about where he thinks Atlantis might be, right? Outside of Cuba. And you dive there, you have to sign an NDA. You cannot tell anybody what you saw. They'll come after you.
Yep.
Wow.
He has done a lot of work. If you go back to some of his shows.
Yeah, he's connected a lot of people to that one area.
Hemingway and
Hemingway, Kennedy, Maxwell.
Yes.
Sanders.
Yes. Maxwell. And the thing that's interesting is that in this wouldn't you say this last year, Jules, especially maybe the last 6 or 9 months, he's talked about the UFOs, Kennedy, Hemingways, all of the same people over, and in fact, Colonel Sanders' daughter. I mean, they're all like connected, and it's like the UFO and then the continuity of government in the US, where they created that, secret government that's in the mountain in case we get nuked. But now it's looking in case we have this, UFO.
Yeah, in case they land.
Yeah. So, what's amazing, and I'm sure you've noticed this too, Jules, it's the same people over and over. So going back to Atlantis, what if during that time you saw it? You saw clear water on a clear day.
Yeah.
And there's a city down there, right? And maybe you got gold from it, or you got things from it, or whatever. We have no idea. What about Antarctica? Now I know that it was frozen for a long time, but is it?
Yeah.
I mean, I think they've been lying their asses off for years.
They are. So I've got an article pulled up that it's a fairly short read of this is the value. This is why piracy, the value of all those coins and the difference between a piece of 8. And pirates they gave us a democracy. We learned democracy from pirates. We also learned the whole, basically workman's comp.
There you go. Yeah.
Because you would get, if you lost your right arm, you would get 500 or 600 pieces of 8. If you lost your left arm, you get 500 pieces of 8. If you lost your right leg, you got 500. If you lost your left leg, you got 400 for every finger you lost. Regardless of whether you lost your hand or not, you got 100 pieces of 8. If you lost your eye, you got 100 pieces of 8. And pirates were the first people that I've come across to have that kind of compensation system for their crew, because some of these ships were big. I mean, you had some ships that could hold up to 80 cannons. That's big crew. Wow. So if you had a big ship like that, you wanted to make sure your crew was taken care of.
Yeah. Well, you didn't want them jumping ship, right? When you got to port, right? It's like, well, I don't like sailing with you. And then you think about, they had the peg legs, right? And they had the hooks and so in some ways you had prosthesis, right? Of sorts. Wooden maybe, but very interesting. Is this pieces of 8?
So I found this article, and it's pieces of 8 were the common currency during the golden age of piracy. First minted in 1497, they were Spanish origin and considered the international currency of its time. It was made of sorry, half my words are cut out. It was high purity silver and was uniform in weight. It was, sorry for my, there we go. This uniformity that made it so universally accepted. Vendors in Asia knew what he was getting when he asked for 50 pieces of 8 from a Spanish vendor. In Spanish, it was called the Real de Ocho or Peso de Ocho, which translate to 8 reals or 8 royals. This was a large denomination coin similar to the American $1. In fact, US dollars and indeed most modern currency is based off the real. It was one of the first currencies used in the colonies. Reals became in several denominations. There were 1, 2, 4, and 8 reals. Each 1 real was equivalent to 1/8 of an ounce of silver. An 8 real coin was often cut into smaller pieces, usually 8. Each piece was then worth 1 real. US quarters would be the equivalent to 2 reals. In England, this would be called 2 bits. The real was legal tender in the United States until 1857, and the dollar symbol we use today comes from the banners that wrap around the pillars on the reel.
Wow. That's
the escudo was a gold coin that had a value of about 16 reals, the equivalent to 2 8-real coins. If printed in America today, it would be equivalent of a $2 coin. The escudo was first minted in 1635. It was a ducat in England, there are also 4 Ashuto coins as well as an 8 Ashuto coin. Just like the real, each Ashuto is worth an eighth of an ounce. The 8 Ashuto coin was called the onza, or ounce. It is worth noting that an ounce of silver or gold in the 1600s could buy a lot more than a US dollar can today. A single 8 reals coin would have the buying power today of approximately $100 or $12.50 per reel. A doubloon would have the buying power of $400, not accounting for gold's current trading value. It's clear to see why piracy was so lucrative.
Do you ever think maybe we're going to go back to coins again?
If the digital thing falls, I want to be a pirate now.
No, I know they're going to try to put that all. They're going to get that all set up. I understand that, but I kind of wonder if there's going to be again an alternative, and we go back to coins of some sort, right? Silver and gold.
I don't know. Are we going back to coin? Are we going to coins, or are we going away from currency altogether?
Well, they're going to try to get us out of currency, you know. But looking at the currency right now that you're sharing, I think it's very timely, because I'm thinking about, you know, because I mean, okay. So let me throw this premise out there. I don't want to derail the show, but I mean, looking at the coins, I think it's really significant. The fact that, okay, when they launched this last party 2 years ago, they figured everybody would sign up. And as it turned out, the numbers were not as high. Okay, right. Now they're going to launch another party probably in December. Okay, this is going to be a financial party. Well, I think a lot of people that are like-minded are thinking, I don't want to be a part of that. Just like I didn't want to attend the party 2 years ago, and I don't really want to attend the party in December. So there's going to be, you know, if all of us don't participate, if we walk away from the system and we start maybe becoming happy pirates, maybe we manufacture our own coins, and we have, so, you know, pieces of 8 and pieces of 10 and pieces of 6 or whatever you want to call it, right?
Yeah.
Because a lot of us are already, you know, purchasing a few of those things. So I'm just saying that looks more real to me than something that's in somebody's, you know, control and not mine.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying. So I think the show is far more timely than I would have thought. You know what I mean? Like just looking at those coins, and because if you look at the captain's manifest for everybody, it's like the Constitution, right? And everybody signed up for it on the ship. And like you said, you had compensation, and you had maybe had a doctor on board. Somebody brought that up, Donnie. Sometimes they conscripted doctors, and yeah. So you know, while we're walking down the parallel road, maybe we're going to be creating different things, is all I'm saying. Yeah. That's my vision, that on my road, we'll maybe hopefully be able to create something different than playing the game. I just don't want to play the game. So I just want to not go to the party. And I really love the pieces of 8. And I really like this whole thing of, I don't want to be a pirate, but I do like the costume though.
Yep.
Tell me.
Yeah, Luna's like, are we dressing up? And I'm like, of course. Why not?
This was great. I mean, I had a great time dressing up. It's awesome. I haven't done that for a long time. So
I'm actually kind of brave enough to wear it in public.
Well, I don't know. It's Halloween's coming up. We could certainly wear it for the day. Or sounds like the sound of
you can tweak it up to make it acceptable, I reckon. I'm Captain Colors, by the way.
It's just the
See,
thought.
I do wear it. These are my normal clothes, you know. They're not dress up clothes. I actually wear them, except for the hat.
You do? You wear those?
Yeah, I wear corsets and like on brave days. Yeah, I do. This jacket I wear, and the top underneath it is my wearing. This was from the girls. The girls actually wear this stuff as well. So I just pinched some of these. So we actually do. So maybe the pirate is sneaking into reality and we don't realise it.
Hey, Luna, the pirates are already in reality. Tune into
Exactly.
Washington, D.C.
Yeah, little pirate. And you
I
know
don't,
what?
they're not just in Washington, D.C.
Oh, that's right. Just turn into your local news, your local your county government.
Yeah.
Arg.
You know, it is in our blood because over the years, as I've met different people, not everyone, but every now and again, someone that I meet has the same thing like me and just loves pirate things. And I'm a land lover, right? Anyone that knows me, I love the trees, I love my land, I love water, but river water and stuff like that. I have a great respect for the ocean. I've had many spiritual things with the ocean, but I am a land lover. But in me is something about pirates in the ocean, and it's in there somewhere. And there's other people that I've met, like I said, over the time, where they've had the same thing, and they sit next to me, and we have this chuckle like a pirate kind of thing. And I know it's got something to do with freedom and being yourself, and not so much rape, plunge, and pillaging, but more go against the narrative and go against the current system, more like that, you know, like even like a bit like bikers, you know. But the
You were
pirate
free,
movement is
you were
there.
free from the establishment when you were on the sea.
Yes.
So so bringing that up, were a lot of the pirates like us? Like they could not sign up for the insanity going on land and said, we're going to go create our own reality. And since they had no respect for those idiots on the land who were taxing the people anyway, maybe they did a little bit of Robin Hood, on the sea.
Yeah.
So maybe there's always been us out here throwing rocks into the supposed system that everybody's so happy with, that, when you're invited to the party. So I hadn't seen pirates quite like that, but maybe a lot of them were awake. But not woke, awake, like, understanding that we don't want any part of that. And the only place they could go, well, besides West, I think for a long time, you could actually pick up your homestead and leave. You could actually find land and get away from the crap for a while. But maybe part of that was you went West, or, like in Australia, whatever that was for you, right?
Yeah,
But other people,
a
they
lot
hit
of
the
those Scots went south, went to the Caribbean. The Jacobites, they were the ones that were in favor of the Stuarts being on the throne, as opposed. So they went and they fought in those wars and the pirate wars. For the Jacobites, for the monarchy.
Yeah, very interesting.
Like with Blackbeard and the Queen Anne's Revenge, a lot of those ship names were actually taken from the Jacobites.
Very interesting.
What kind of treasure in history are we going to uncover?
Well, treasure uncovered in history. I got something that was recently uncovered just 2 or 3 months ago.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not the only Goonies fan
You
here.
need a deckhand to do that, Jules.
So, hey, you guys, what I found? I found the ship, the Inferno from the Goonies.
That's right.
Has been discovered this year, July 26th, in the year 2022. The Inferno was discovered off the coast of Oregon.
Wow. That's amazing. Did they find anything on it, or they just found the ship?
A team of volunteers unearthed over 20 pieces of wood in a cave off the Oregon coast in June. It turned out to be wreckage from a Spanish galleon called the Santo Cristo de Burgos, also known as the Beeswax wreck. After the vessel capsized in 1693, locals found pieces of cargo washed ashore, including chunks of beeswax, giving the wreck its name. Uh, an Oregon local was searching for an agate gemstone along the coast when he discovered some of the timber a few years ago. And this guy was going back for it, and then COVID actually came, and it forced him to like take some time between. And he actually got the permits and everything, and came back, and so they started excavating for, and the experts are believing that this was the ship that inspired the Inferno in the Goonies. And it was found in the coast off Astoria, where that's the town where Goonies actually is set to take place. And this guy right here, he knows a lot of inside stuff. I thought it was just UFOs and science fiction, but
Oh,
it seems
Spielberg.
kind of that this guy knew about this years before. But yeah, I found that. I thought that was a pretty interesting article.
People have made lots of comments about Spielberg. He's I think he's one of the insiders.
Yeah, I think so.
I mean, if you look at E.T., what was the one with Dreyfus? That was another where he goes
Close Encounters.
Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Yeah, if you go and what was in isn't he the one that did Jurassic Park? That was Spielberg too, right? He did the Jurassics, the first ones.
I
I
think
think
so.
I think that was Spielberg as well. He's got his finger in the pie, you know what I mean? And to me, the Jurassics are really all about manipulating DNA, right? And doing all kinds of experimental stuff and bringing animals back and God
Yeah,
knows.
that was around 1992, 1993, and now we can actually do that.
That's right. That's right. And look at all the Jurassics. I've seen every single one of them. I'm a big Jurassic person. You could skip the last one they did. It was really bad, but three before that were good. Anyway, yeah. So when I think about him, he's really done a sort of plethora of that kind of stuff. Very interesting. Yeah, I did a little research on ghost ships because what would this story be without ghost ships, right? And one of them was the Octavius. It was a three-masted schooner departed from England in 1761, but was found off the coast of Greenland in 1775. Her captain unluckily decided to try and use the then non-existent Northwest Passage to return home. The 5 men who boarded the derelict ship in 1775 were confronted with a ghostly sight. The entire 28-man crew were below deck, but frozen to death. The icy figure of the ship's captain was discovered sitting at his desk, writing in his logbook. The pirates were actually superstitious, very superstitious, and they were scared of witchy kind of. So this is another discovery we may want to go into, was the mermaids. They were scared of certain mermaids. They were they were worried about witchy kind of, and you know how the mermaids are sirens and have the song. Well, what if they were really the underwater people?
Yeah.
Right? And
Yep.
how many sightings have sailors seen the ships leave the water, right? What if they saw what is probably underwater ET folks and they got scared because no one could explain to them. No one said, hey, look, we've got aliens underneath the water that have technology way beyond your thinking.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm fascinated by mermaids because I have so many questions and the lore that surrounds them. I actually have something pulled up. Mermaids are different than sirens, and then don't forget about the Lorelei on the Rhine River. I
So
mean,
what's the
they
difference
were
between a mermaid and a siren?
a mermaid is strictly water. A siren actually, let me pull up this article
Okay.
because a siren actually is depicted. Sirens can fly. They have wings.
Are they
Sometimes they
are
have
they water creatures? Are they water creatures too?
they're mostly land creatures.
Oh, okay.
And yeah,
Okay.
so mermaids are aquatic while sirens are not. Mermaids find mention in folklore of tales of all cultures and civilizations, while sirens are only found in Greek mythology.
Mm.
Mermaids are known as gentle and benevolent, whereas sirens are believed to have evil intentions. Mermaids are half women and half fish, whereas sirens are believed to be birds with the head of the woman. And one of those odd little eerie facts about the siren is that coffee company that has a siren as its logo.
Yes.
If you take that old original logo
Yes.
vision and turn it upside down,
Yeah, that wasn't necessarily a positive logo,
mm-mm.
really. Yes. I know somebody went through logos one time and I was shocked. And that she had, yeah. And wasn't there a recent series about sirens? And what I thought it was mermaids, but it wasn't. It was sirens,
Yeah, I saw.
right?
I saw that. I actually am very interested in mer people.
Yeah, very. No, it was really interesting, but I thought it was mermaids, and it's like no, it's not. And
No,
then they had a bunch of series with kids, which I really liked, and I think it was filmed in Australia, where they were mer people, right? And the guy got bit or something happened. He turned into a merman, and then there was a bunch of mermaids, and they were all kids. They were all like 17, 18 or something. It was a cute series. I just really enjoyed it. Well, mostly because it was in Australia, and I can't remember the name of that one, but that was fun too. So I always find the fact that mermaids have been around for a really long time, you got to wonder, are they there? I'm kind of wondering that they are.
I'm trying to find. I have to do a show on mermaids because I'm trying to find out. I watched this thing the other day. I was telling Jules and that yesterday. There's a young fella. He got a job on a fishing boat in America, and he was out. And he, as a young fella, he'd go live on his phone, right, all the time. And then one night you could hear singing in the background, and he thought it was coming from the city. And as he turned his phone around, you could see in the background the city, right? He thought it was that, but it happened a few more other times. And then he realised they were kind of in syncing with what he was thinking. And the next thing, he goes to work, and the government had put a scientific shed on the boat, and it's like a little investigation laboratory thing, and that was the end of it. And he said, I can't do this anymore. So what I was hearing must have been real, because why the government put a research thing on his ship after he posted all those songs. So that was interesting.
Yeah, so have you guys ever heard of the Blue Men of Minch?
No, what is that?
Mermen. Mermen have an equally fierce reputation for summoning storms, sinking ships, and drowning sailors. One especially feared group, the Blue Men of Minch, are said to dwell in the outer Hebrides off the coast of Scotland, according to the Scotsman. They look like ordinary men from the waist up, with the exception of their blue tinted skins and gray beards. Local lore claims that before they lay siege to a ship, the blue men often challenge its captain to a rhyming contest. If the captain is quick enough of wit and agile enough of tongue, he can best the blue men and save his sailors from a watery grave.
Mm.
Oh, I hadn't heard that. That's interesting.
I know one thing, all the clips I've seen of supposedly mermaids, there's heaps of them if you go searching around, you can tell because where we bend at the knee, they don't. So if there's a mermaid and they've got the bend in the knee where ours is, it's fake. And the other one is where they put animals together, obviously. There's a couple of them. Yeah, but that's how you can tell. And then I've seen others where you look at it and go, shit, that's real. It's real. But again, like the pirate gene in our bodies, there's another gene that says these things are real. They did exist, and there's probably some left now. There's too many of us on the edge.
There's some. I just want to share a quick story. So I'm living in Jackson now, and I was buying. I went to all the stores looking at knickknacks and everything, and I started noticing a trend. It's all fairies here. There's no angels here. No angels. This Jackson is not an angel place. It's a fairy place.
Really?
And it's like what you're saying. It's like these kinds of things are real. So I started making comments to the store owners. I said, I noticed you're selling lots of fairy stuff. I don't buy fairy stuff because I buy angel stuff. I'll just say that. I think sometimes we're either angels or fairies. So I'm an angel person. But anyway, so I started making comments to the store owners, and one of them said, oh yeah, Jackson is fairies, all fairies. And I said, yeah. So I said, well, I'll just use the angels I have. Very interesting. Very interesting. And so it's like there's no coincidence to these things, right? And I don't know what makes this more of a fairy place. I really don't. I know there's a lot of crystals here. There's a tremendous amount of crystals here.
What it is.
And I was telling Jules too that I feel like my spiritual essence, my whatever, has been able to open back up here.
Oh, cool.
So whatever's going on, I feel like, I can spread my wings and, reach out. Because I think what happens in these bigger cities is you become smaller and smaller to protect your aura, your essence, whatever. And here it's just like it's huge. And I had these old cards, these animal cards, and I used to use them all the time a long time ago. And I'd kept them. They're tarot Indian cards. And I went to this old store and there was the book because I'd lost the book. So I bought the book and I started using them and they were so right on. And I don't think I would have used them in the Bay Area. So it kind of just reminds me that things are the way they are and you got to go with the flow. Like you may enter someplace and like it's just like the significant difference of fairies. Why are the fairies here? I know we have a lot of crystals. Is that a thing for fairies? It's a very heavily forested place, which could be more of a fairy place as well. But anyway, it's very interesting. So why wouldn't there be sirens and mermaids and all kinds of stuff out there?
Everyone knows in my culture, we know those things are real.
Right.
But still, I can go into town and find a modern day black fella and they'll look at you and go, huh? Because in our culture, we believe the stars are spiritual beings. And I remember saying that to another black fella and he looked at me and goes, yeah, they say that traditionally, but traditionally he knows what it is, but today they say that it's this. And I'm like, yeah, but don't you think they knew what it was back then? Because the same information has never changed until now. Like, hang on a minute. Anyway, each to their own. I believe it's all real. Some things I don't believe are real, but them things I believe are real. Like they would have seen a sea monster, like what they called a sea monster, which would have been something left over from an older time.
Right.
The sea lizard or whatever. They would have seen them because on the maps they're on there. If you look at one of them real old maps, you'll see the sea monster, and it's like saying, "Watch out when you go to that water. There's that creature there."
Yeah.
Yeah. And Buzz sent me a good link for mermaid proof thing, but I'll watch it later.
Yeah, he sent it to me, and thank you for sending it, Buzz. It's on deck for tonight.
I have seen a lot of unusual things like that. Yeah, and I love the water. It's really funny. I'm a land lover, but I do love the water. And I reckon once I might have been a pirate, or I might have been a mermaid.
True. So, once we're sailing, we're on the ship. Food. I mean, it was you were prepared for your voyage. When you would start out, you would have cows, you would have milk, you would have water, you would have food, you would have hardtack, you would have everything that you could think of. And the longer your voyage was, the harder it became, because as your food became scarce, you had to slaughter your pigs, your chickens,
Your cow, probably.
your cow. I mean, and then with the cow was your loss of your milk. And everything, there wasn't plastic, there wasn't Ziploc bags, everything was stored in wooden barrels. And ships often had coopers, once their job, that's their job, their duty was to disassemble the wooden barrels and assemble them as needed for storage.
Interesting. Well, and they had to fight off the rats.
They did. They ate in the dark because their food would be infested, and or boll weevils would be in it, so they ate in the dark. They used a lot of spices to cover up the rancid and the rotten food they were eating.
I was surprised they didn't fish more. I mean, I looked up the food too. It's like dried meats, jerky, beans were the most popular thing, right? Of course, they were going to end fiber, and fruits and vegetables tended to go bad fairly early on the voyage.
Yeah.
I'm surprised they didn't fish more. I don't see that they.
Well, I mean, I can see them fishing, but if you were sailing and you had duties to do, the ship had to always function. I mean, and you didn't always have time to fish.
Well, if you had somebody, it seems to me like maybe you would have one or two persons that was their job. Like they would fish, right? Or try to catch the tunas or whatever.
Yeah, they would have been eating shark. Like, they would have ate whatever they grabbed. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they ate. They would catch stuff and throw it all together and add like pickling juice, and they would have this drink. It's very similar sounding to salad, but it was like salmon grundy is what it was called, but they gave it another name and they combined both of those words. It was like sal something, but it was now it sounds like salad.
Wow. Interesting. Yeah.
I mean, but the pirates gave us barbecue.
Mm.
The
Hang on. We argue about the bar. We said this the other day. Donnie, I need your help. Who had the barbecue first? Us or them?
Okay. I agree with you, Luna, but so-called his story.
Yeah, they had it first. Okay. When I heard about the barbecue, I'm thinking, hang on a minute. We've been cooking like that for years. No, you're right. The barbecue. They didn't have any lighting or heating because it required fire, and they were in a wooden boat.
They had one box, I think, that they cooked in. They called it this black box thing. You had to heat stuff up to cook it.
Yeah,
I can't remember the name of it, but yeah, they did. They had one thing on this. You're right, on the ship, because otherwise it would catch on fire. But it was set up for cooking.
So I got an article.
Yeah,
Because here we are talking about history and all the Blackbeard and all that, and I'm here to tell you that, ladies, there were some real kick-ass female pirates out there, and they had their own ship. And
Yes, they did have kick-ass women pirates. Yes, they did.
and I got,
Real quick, the name of did pirates cook food off in a ship had nothing more than a metal box full of sand in which the cook would light a fire and heat preserved food in a rough weather. The fire needed to be put out, and men ate raw salted beef. But they did have that box with sand in it. Okay, go ahead. Keep going.
okay, so what do we got here? We have the story of Qing Shi, prostitute turned lord of the pirates.
Yes, she was the most fierce.
Yeah, that's why I picked her, because she was like the top shelf. Yeah, I'll just read. It's not that long. I'll just read it out to you. I could share it if I get permission off Jules.
Oh yeah, go for it.
Uh-oh. I don't think I can. I don't know if I can. Oh, here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. All right. Can you see that?
Yeah.
Is that nice and clear? All right. So I'll read it out and you can have a look. I'll make the screen bigger. Technical things, you know. Pirates didn't have to deal with these issues. Oh. All right. So, okay. How one of the 18th century concubines became terror of the South China. In a rags to riches story for the ages, prostitute turned pirate Lord Qing Shi or Shi remains one of the most feared and successful pirates in history. After her husband's death, Shi took over the infamous Red Flag Fleet, led over 50,000 pirates, and lived to tell the tale with all her acquired riches. She was probably the most successful pirate of all because she got to live and she got to keep everything. They never took it off her. The repo man didn't come round. Okay. Born this is hard to say, Liangzhu in 1775, she grew up in the Guangdong Canton province of southeastern China, where at one point she worked as a prostitute on a floating brothel, as originally reported by Ancient Origins. But an 1801 encounter with Zheng Yi, pirate, they all sound kind of the same, sorry, pirate commander of the Red Flag Fleet, would pluck Qing Shi from the floating obscurity and change her life forever. She got rescued. Yi proposed to Shi, however, the nature of the event itself remains a source of speculation. Some say Yi ordered a raid on the bordello and captured his concubine, while others retain Yi simply asked Shi to marry him. By either account, Shi said yes to Yi's proposal, but after Yi assured her that he would meet certain conditions which included an equal partnership in fleet leadership, as well as 50% of the admiral's share of anything attained, Yi agreed, stayed true to his word, and the pair would go on to run ever-growing fleet of pirate ships together. Well, she was a smart woman. So there's the Red Flag Fleet. Now, there's something about this, because in our desert, we have a petroglyph of a red-sailed ship. And I don't know whether it's Phoenician or whether it's one of these, because they're the only two red-sailed ships I know. But you'd see them come a mile away, you'd either strike fear in you or you'd give your position away, one or the other. Okay. The Red Flag Fleet grows. The couple only possessed 200 ships at the time of their marriage, but a coalition with powerful Cantonese pirates forces would soon allow the Red Flag Fleet to comprise somewhere between 1,700 and 1,800 ships. These combined efforts would result in a colour-coded fleet of ships led by the red flag and followed by convoys labelled black, white, blue, yellow and green. Wow. One of their latest successes came in 1804 when the fleet issued a blockade of Portuguese trading port at Mukai, located on the south coast of China. The Portuguese sent a squadron to fend off the pirate attack, but the red flag promptly overpowered them. Even the British Royal Navy declined to get involved. Wow. Instead, providing naval escorts to ships belonging to them and their allies. Wouldn't you want to be on their side? Imagine if all the pirates went to the Chinese and said, let's all get together. They would be ruling today, I reckon. So just 6 years after Marion Shi, the Red Flag Fleet's co-commander, Zheng Yi, fought his last fight amid the Tay Son Rebellion in Vietnam, where he died in 1807. Seeing an opportunity to rise to power, she, with the support of fleet's second-in-command, Chang Po, oversaw command of the entire squadron. Soon she would go on to rule hard, celebrating success at nearly every turn. All right, so I don't want to bore you, but what I wanted to say at the bottom, oh, look, that's a bit long. I didn't realise it was that long. Just says at the bottom that unlike Anne Bonny and Mary Read, which were two other famous pirate women, they actually got caught and died. But she obviously lived on and kept everything. She was a very successful piratess. So there you go. That's my bit.
Super
Yeah.
cool.
I thought it was interesting. I mean, I looked up a bunch of women pirates myself, and we had Rachel Wall is thought to be the first American female pirate born in Pennsylvania in 1760. But yeah, they were actually quite successful. But the one that you were talking about is that she was the most successful woman pirate. And they actually did just as well as the guys. They were just as fierce and just as successful. See? And so the other thing you could add to the pirate thing is, what do you call that? Equalization, right? Everybody's equal at work.
Yeah.
Yeah, I ever say that? Yeah. Politically correctly. Anyway.
And Australia did have pirates. I looked into it like quickly, but most of them obviously were from other countries, because blackfellas weren't really pirates unless you were born near the sea and you're a water person. That's what I wanted to say earlier too. I got one of my friends. She's Ewan. She's from down south, and she's a water person. She absolutely loves the water. Like you were saying before, Sharon, she'll go in there. She knows so much about the water because she's a water people. She grew up next to the water, and you can see it in everything that she does. And when she's away from it, you can see her energy go down. And then when she's back at the water, she's all bright and the same as us land lovers, but opposite. Yeah, so there is a point to that. Being in the blue.
I think some of us are water people, some of us are forest people, some of us are desert people. You know, it's just there you go. There's the telescope. I thought I had a date for the Australians. You guys came a little later on the pirates.
Yeah, we had to be occupied before the pirates come. The funny thing is, we did actually trade with a lot of people, and I imagine we would have traded with pirates because they would have had ships to come here. We would have traded with them, and they would have went on their way. We traded with many people, but it wasn't until occupation came that the real pirate thing come around.
Yeah, I know I made a note of it, but I can't find it right now. But yeah, well, also with this history of Australia, I mean, if it's not everybody came from prison, did they? Not everybody.
No, the first lot that came, so what's her name? Cook came out with his mob, put the flag in, and then come behind him with the first lot of convicts, and they were all male. So there was all men here at first, and then they weren't doing really well, and then they sent out a heap of women.
Yeah.
And Yeah, that's a story on its own, the convicts. And then after that, when they pretty well got a hold, because they had to find minerals, you know what they're bloody like. Whatever serves them, we found it all. Now let the rest of the people come. And once the rest of the people come, it'd be free people of all that had all different kinds of jobs. And they ended up settling here, mixing with the convicts. Yeah, that's a story on its own. I'll put something together. Me and Donnie might do that.
Right. Yeah.
Be interesting to hear.
We could have done with some pirates on our side, I tell you, because they would have went, all right, we know what it's like out there. We know them fellas. This is what we do. That would have helped us. Anyway.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I'm sure there's a lot of women that would have jumped on board and went, yeah, I'll fight for it. Because they make out, even in history, there's another thing. Like you look back, women had no rights and all that. We weren't allowed to have money or anything like that. We're made out to be really weak and all that. But when you really have a look, there are a lot of really, really strong women out there, hence like the pirate women.
Mm-hmm.
So they're covering things up again because they'd have us believe that we didn't do that sort of thing. But we did. So
We did.
You really got to look, don't you? Give me that spyglass. I've got one, but it actually belongs to a child pirate.
It's okay. I won't tell Carl you took it.
Hey, do you want to know why they had parrots? The colorful, talkative parrots were treated as a form of entertainment and recreation. All of these characteristics pirates had because having a parrot as a pet, missing arms, eyes, and hands was very common among sailors in that time period, and almost all pirates had previously been sailors. So, and because you know, on a long voyage, you get bored. So they actually played games and sang and did all kinds of stuff. So they probably created their own games, right?
They did. They had different kinds of shanties for different chores.
Yep.
Oh, sea shanties. I got sea shanties. We'll talk about that and the rhymes. You mentioned the rhymes before, Jules, that they'd have games of rhymes and stuff like that. And then you mentioned, or one of you mentioned that the merm people or the sirens would give them riddles and that they had to solve. And I thought, is that where the game come from? They played the game to keep up on that. So if they met a mer person, they could pass their challenge.
Maybe.
Never know.
Never know. I mean, but when they weren't consuming rum, they were singing and but I mean and it really it all depends on if your captain lets you gamble on his ship. Because there were captains that had articles that you were not allowed to gamble on his ship. You were not allowed to take anybody else's earnings.
See, that's what I mean. Look at the honor in that, and they reckon pirates were then,
Right.
you know, despicable, but they had a code, and I figured I don't think they always got drunk because if they didn't have much water and they only had rum left, or they had to put the rum in the water to keep it pure, they automatically would have got a bit pissed, right? I don't think they were actually like alcoholics like they made them out to be. It was part of survival. That's all they had.
Right. Yes. There was a reason they drank the rum, and there was a reason they drank the beer. Yeah, absolutely. And well, you know, if you're a captain, the couple of things you're going to want to avoid is people fighting over money,
Mm-hmm.
people fighting over alcohol, right? There's going to be certain things. And then you have guys that they're going to be at sea for a long time. They're going to get bored. So you want to keep them busy because then you want to get them on shore so they can go, you know, meet women and then come back happier pirates. What interesting and surprisingly is some of the pirates were married and some of the wives actually went on the voyages. And some of the wives liked it and some of the wives did not like it. I'm not sure I would have liked that back then, but okay. But again, I don't like being on a boat, so forget it.
Yeah. The lady captain that I just talked to her about, one of her rules was that her men had to treat their wives properly.
Oh, all right. Another great note on the Constitution.
Yeah, and I found that really interesting. Go, lady! Like, you're on my ship. You got to treat your wives properly, and when you go home, do all that proper. I thought that was really good. And it seems to me they're not as bad as what they make them out to be. They actually have a code and morals, like no gambling, obviously, because it
Yeah.
starts from that. But that's what we're like. You shouldn't gamble because we know it's bad for you.
Yeah, when I was looking into this, I was thinking, I mean, just these questions kept coming. I mean, okay, how much has piracy influenced the American democracy?
Yeah, that's actually because if you think about it, we did our Constitution in the 1700s, right?
Mm-hmm.
So in the latter part of it, right, 1776 or well, around that time frame, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so they started cracking down on the pirates. Did you say in the early 1700s?
Mm-hmm.
So maybe we did borrow a couple of things for the Constitution. But again, the founding fathers were like us. I think they were awake.
Yeah, well, I mean, and that was my thoughts for last night. It seems like Freemasonry and piracy are going together. I'll tell you about Jean Lafitte and his sword that was actually found inside a Masonic temple home in the past year or so. And that was an interesting story how that became about. And I started thinking more of it, and pirates and Freemasons and George Washington. And then I found that the British Navy was the one who actually did grog. But George Washington, he served at the House of Burgess this drink called Bumbo. Bumbo was the pirate version of grog. It was made very similar, but they added like cinnamon and nutmeg to the grog, and they called it Bumbo. George Washington had nearly 200 gallons of rum to buy the vote.
Mm.
And how, I mean, news didn't travel that fast way back.
Right.
Back you had to know, or somebody had to specifically tell you of what this was. So, and then that got me thinking, okay, George Washington with the pirates drink does, I mean, he's Freemason. I mean, what kind of knowledge about this democracy and piracy contributed to it?
Well, you have to be a freedom loving person to break away from the king, right? And to tell England to shove it, essentially, right? We're done with you guys. We're tired of paying taxes on your tea. Here, we'll throw it in the ocean. We're all done now.
Yeah.
Which we're sort of back there again, only they're in Washington, D.C. Yeah. And, I've been thinking about this a lot too in the last 6 to 9 months about there's always going to be humans that want to be free and know the difference. And we're not going to settle. We already know the difference. We can't go back. We can't go to sleep again, right? It's not going to happen. And so we're just not going to sign up for the nonsense.
Yeah.
And I'm still amazed that it feels to me that the silent majority is moving quietly, stealthily, and consistently forward. And I know that they've got a loud machine going, but again, that silent majority is like, mm-mm. So maybe we all have a bit of piracy in us, if you think about it a little bit, right?
Yeah.
This sort of dream of, is there a place I can go where this nonsense isn't? And the ocean is huge. It's just amazingly huge, and it's healing. I mean, I love living by the ocean when it's not fogged in every day. And to me, it's just such a healing body of energy and just amazingness, right? That we don't even know what it's all made up of, So there's maybe that's another reason people took to the sea. there was a spiritual component to it. Do you know what I mean?
Oh,
Yeah.
I agree. I've had incidences where I've been in the ocean and the creatures in the ocean have come right up to me. I've had those manta rays, them giant manta rays, sharks, jellyfish, little rays, all kinds of things. It is a very spiritual and very cleansing, and I actually need, and it's funny, we're doing a pirate show because summer's coming here, and guess where I'm going? As soon as it warms up, I'm going for a dunk in the salt water because it spiritually cleans you inside, outside, all over.
Yeah, it does.
And
Yeah.
it takes all that heaviness away. It's kind of like the bush, but different. I think you need both,
Yeah.
My ideal place is bush where it meets the sea. I can have the best of both worlds.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. It does take all the heaviness away. It in a very short time, like within hours.
Instantly.
Feel that.
Yeah, you can. You can feel it strong.
It's interesting. Yeah, I'm agreeing with you. But Jules, I really like your train of thought. I hadn't thought of because I wondered why you picked pirates, and this makes perfect sense right now.
But yeah, so have you guys ever heard of Edward Vernon?
No, I haven't.
Edward Vernon he was the vice admiral that actually is credited with grog.
Now, what is grog really? Like, what does it consist of? Like, is it rum? Is that what it is? And what water or
Lime.
Rum, water, and lime. Yeah, let me share my
Lime.
screen.
To get rid of
I got a couple of things about rum. I mean, when you think pirates, you think rum, but the British Navy also, they have a lot of notable historical things with rum. But yeah, let me share my screen because I have a short article I'll read for you guys. Yeah. So I mean, I'm just gonna pick up the good part of the article. So grog originated in the British Royal Navy, specifically with Vice Admiral William Penn. Penn landed in Barbados in 17th century and captured modern-day Jamaica. Although this was significant for many reasons, one of them was the introduction of rum to the Royal Navy. While Jamaica had little beer or wine, there was plenty of rum to be found, and it soon became popular among the sailors of the British Royal Navy to consume generous amounts of Navy rum to make the long, arduous passages more bearable. Although Jamaican rum certainly made sailing more enjoyable, a group of drunken sailors doesn't always make for the best crew. Vice Admiral Edward Vernon, a British admiral who sailed with his crew to the Caribbean in the 18th century, was the first to solve this problem. Vernon's nickname was Old Grog, chosen for his grogham cloak of wool, silk, and mohair. He created a solution for his sailors' inclination towards drunkenness in 1740 by creating the legendary grog. At this point in history of the Navy grog, every man's daily ration of alcohol was a half pint of rum to be drank at his leisure. To keep his sailors from reaching a level of belligerent drunkenness, Vernon declared that each man's half pint would be diluted with a quart of water.
Okay.
The sailors had to mix their water and alcohol on deck before the eyes of the lieutenant of the watch to ensure that no one snuck extra naval rum into his alcoholic beverage. This mixture was to be divided into 2 helpings, one given in the morning and the other in the afternoon. Those with money to spare were allowed to purchase sugar and limes to make the combination of water and dark rum more appetizing. This historical usage of limes is what led to the word limey, a slang term for a British person. The sailors, accustomed to the freedom of drinking straight rum whenever they wanted, were far from happy when with those new restrictions. In their displeasure, they named the disgusting mixture grog to mock old Grog and his groggum coat. Ironically, though, the grog that these sailors so despised would turn out to be their saving grace, since in times to come, scurvy, a disease caused by vitamin C deficiency, killed thousands of sailors from 1500 to 1800. Since sailors spent so much of their time in the sea without access to fresh fruits and vegetables, they were susceptible to vitamin deficiencies. Some of these once would be serious enough to kill them. Since scurvy is caused by the lack of vitamin C, the fresh lime juice was essential in saving these sailors' lives. This accidentally prevented thousands of deaths by providing sailors with a dose of vitamin C. Over time, grog became the British Navy's favorite drink. It continued to help sailors endure through the waves of the physical toil throughout the Revolutionary War, World War I, and World War II. It was also widely popular among pirates, whose variation included nutmeg and was called bumbo.
Ah,
And you ought to realise you got to have the C in you if you want to go to sea. That's funny. Vitamin C if you want to go to sea.
that's interesting. You'd still be kind of half crocked all day, right? I mean, you're still drinking rum. You're still drinking alcohol.
Yeah, I mean, you would pretty much welcome rum. I mean, you would start out with water, but your water would spoil, and to drink water, they would pour liquor, they would pour alcohol in their water.
Yeah. Yeah, which probably sterilized it on some level, right?
And
But yeah, I mean, that ties into something else I got queued up. Blackbeard. We've all know of Blackbeard. When he was threatened to board a ship, he would drink rum with gunpowder, and he would light fuses in his beard to make himself look intimidating. I couldn't find any articles where Blackbeard actually was a horrible demonous monster who killed people. I mean, more things that I came across, and I'm partially swayed with others is that he dressed like that for intimidation because he wasn't that brutal. He wanted people to think that he was brutal.
Yeah, right. Well, that's what they said in The Princess Bride. Remember?
Yeah, but with the gunpowder, I mean, Blackbeard was drinking it, and his day was the height of his heyday was like 1710 or thereabout. But the British Navy, they were that's how they proofed the alcohol, is with rum and gunpowder, because if you were sailing and you were getting your daily ration of rum, you didn't want it watered down. You want it to be at proof that it was actual real rum. You didn't want a mutiny on it.
Right.
So
here in Australia,
a little bit of pirate lore is what actually started the whole proofing of spirits. And then there was a tax, the British proof tax for 100 proof once corresponded to a level of taxation, and they would get molasses water and they would put water in it and they would make it look like it's lighter to make it look like rum, and until they were busted with it. So, and then it was interesting, and they still actually do make rum. There's a company out of New Zealand that makes rum with gunpowder, and the gunpowder in the rum is said to just make it super, super, super spicy, because pirates liked it spicy. They like their Navy rum. They like their spicy rum. And there was somewhere else I was going with that story, but I guess it's not important.
Actually, that was pretty interesting. And did you also hear about what they used to do to cure syphilis and things like that? They actually used mercury.
Wow, I had forgot about that.
Yeah.
But yeah, up until 1970, the sailors in the Navy got their daily ration up until it was known as Black Tot Day, when the daily ration of rum had stopped.
Wow, that's interesting.
And one like interesting thing about rum is the way that it's made. Rum is made from sugarcane. It's distilled, but when you're at sea and you're sailing and you've got a crew of rum you've got to make for your sailors, you distill it on your ship. There is a brand of rum, and I believe it's called Pusser's rum, that is still wood distilled. And because it's wood distilled, it has a completely different distinctual flavor to it. It's the only rum that's wood distilled. It's the only spirit that I know of that's wood distilled. So rum is synonymous with pirates, and there's a lot of reasons why, but primarily it's because there's no fresh water.
Right. So they didn't drink a lot, and they didn't jump in the ocean to get clean because it was too, the salt water was too irritable on their body. So I would have thought that would have been the toughest part is the hygienic stuff and things like that. We're so used to brushing our teeth and getting a shower, and we're so blessed to have all that. And it's like that was pretty non-existent, right? Because you didn't have fresh water to use for bathing.
Yep, and 151 was the proof for Navy rum, and Bacardi still uses that today.
So 151 proof.
151 proof.
No wonder they put water in it. If they put water in it, right, that's going to get it down to what, 50 proof? That's still pretty high. You're still drinking some really heavy duty stuff.
Maybe that's why they didn't believe their stories when they said, I saw mer people and I saw these creatures, and they're thinking, no, I don't listen to them, they drink rum all day. Sounds good, but here in Australia, our slang, we still say grog for alcohol. Like, we call it grog. We're going up to the grog shop. We're going to the grog shop.
Yeah.
They're all leftovers from the convicts, and yeah, that's where we got it all from. Because we never, as you know, we never had native alcohol. So rum at that proof would have blew our heads off. No wonder that's how they figured it out. Just give them rum, they won't know what hit them.
Yeah,
and they're on the land.
I mean, and the gunpowder is how they would test it. If it caught on when you dilute it with your water, if you actually put gunpowder in there and it caught on fire, then it was good. It was proofed. And if it didn't, then it was underproofed.
Wow. So you're saying they distilled it on the ship too?
Just that particular, just the British Navy. Not all rum was distilled on the ship. That's what made that Pusser's rum so unique, is that it was wood distilled. So if they were at sea for a long amount, at sea, they would still be able to get their daily ration of rum. They just distilled it there on the ship.
Interesting. Wow. That's really interesting.
Jeez. They would have needed it for medical reasons too, antiseptic and stuff.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Yes, and the poor cook was, if there wasn't a surgeon on board, then it was up to the cook.
Oh my God.
And they all knew how to sew. So that's what I like, because in our culture, when we do weaving and that, the men know exactly the same stuff. It's not like only the women do it, or only the women sew in more modern culture. Back then, men and women, especially sailors, they all knew how to sew. Their stitches might have been different, but I have read an article where they had a pair of pants and a shirt, and you could see all the different patches, and they said that the sewing was, some of it was normal sewing, tailor sewing, and some of it was sewing what they used to fix the sails with. So they mixed their sewing up.
Mhm.
They could look after themselves, which was a
Well,
good thing.
again, you'd have to, right? You're going to be out for a long time. So I never saw anything on what an average trip would be. Would it be 2 months, 3 months, 4 months? Did you see anything on that?
I think the maiden voyage, I guess, is depends on where the captain was at port and where he was, what he was. It depends on what he was looking for, what he was seeking, where he was going.
But I mean, there would have been a time where you were out of stuff. If you didn't run into somebody to get their, pillage their ship, then there's going to be a time where you're going to have to stop. You
Oh
don't.
yeah, there. I wish there was. I can't remember what pirate crew it was, but they were basically almost out of everything. It got down to the point where they were eating leather.
Again, I would have stopped and fished, but
They were eating leather, and once you couldn't catch anything, and then it's possible that some of them could have, like, as Jimmy says, man corn, cannibalism.
well, I didn't see anything on that either. But yeah,
Yeah, all I know, Sharon, is that when the convicts come here, it took 6 months from England to here because there's a song about 6 months in a leaky boat. And I thought 6 months, and you'd run out of stuff for sure. And they reckon the condition the convicts were in when they got here was terrible because they did run out of everything by the time they got here.
my heart goes out to the early pioneers that were on the wagon trains, as
Hmm.
well as people on ships that came from Ireland, England, and that went over to Australia or America. That was not an easy voyage, right? And I'm sure lots of people didn't make it just on the ship,
Mm.
right?
It would have been stretches where there was no land. You just have to make it from A to B. And if you didn't make it, tough luck.
Yeah, right, right.
So we think.
That was his fault.
Yeah, because every time I think like that, I go, hang on a minute. When you take yourself back there, it's different. The rum tasted different. Like we just realised they did different. Things must have tasted a lot different to what we think they did back then. The
Yeah.
tobacco would have been different.
They
You know?
probably do because they didn't have any GMO foods back then.
Yeah.
When
The
that,
clothes were made of,
or anybody, putting crap in their ozone layer, like all the spraying. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, they could get alcohol at 151 proof. Try getting that today.
When I visited Australia and I went to Cairns and I went to the open fruit and fish market, that was the first time in years I smelled fresh fruit and fresh fish, and it was amazing. It was amazing. And I bought fruit that I never eat, and I could not get enough of it because we don't have that here. We don't have anything that smells good. It used to be when you went to the grocery store 1,000 years ago, your fruit smelled good. You could smell it in the grocery store, right? So it was so wonderful to be in Australia and have that experience of to walk. I was like, oh my God, I forgot how good fruit smells, how good fish smells, fresh fish. So I just that's all I ate when I was there. I just it was like so amazing because the smell is what entices us to eat, right? So no wonder we eat all crap because that's what smells at this point, right? And I don't know what they're doing to the fruit, but they freeze everything and put it on a ship or whatever.
Yeah,
It's
that's
like
what it
I
is.
still can't understand why California. I mean, I don't mind feeding the world, but why can't we eat the stuff from California too? Said we don't have to freeze it. We just, let's just, how about farm to my table?
Well, that's
You
how it's
know,
supposed to be,
you got
local.
but you got to go to the farmer's market to do that.
Yeah,
You can't get it from the grocery store. You got to go to the farmer's market, and that's farm to table here now. So thank God for farmers markets because you can get, and it does taste very different. Apples,
Yes.
oranges, oh my God, just things like that. You just can't get that at the grocery store. So, well, we may all be growing all our stuff very soon. So anyway, going back to the subject.
I'm making our own grog.
Yeah. Anyway, Yeah, making our own grog. Yeah.
Okay, if you insist. I'm down for grog.
You never know, they're buying all the water up, see. So, it seems to me if we think a bit more like a pirate and we're land pirates, we might be able to actually survive.
It's not a bad thought.
Yeah, maybe that's the message.
Yeah, so can you believe we have been going for like 100, an hour and 40 minutes, and it just feels like we just sat down?
I know. That was great.
I thought our ship was at 140 degrees.
Yeah, I have no idea what the name of my ship is. I have no idea what my pirate name is.
Yeah, I was thinking about a pirate name. I was going to do it, and I couldn't think of one. And then this morning, I thought of Captain Little Legs.
Captain Little League.
Little Legs. Captain Little Legs.
Captain Little Legs.
Because I'm little, I'm Captain Little Legs. I feel like getting a whole heap of friends together, getting us all to dress up in pirate and go out and run amok on society.
That really sounds like a good idea. I really like that. We'll call ourselves the Buccaneers.
Yeah. We've come to save the day.
Well, I think in our own quiet way, we are doing it. I'd like to think in our own quiet way, we're just marching along.
Yeah, be a pirate. You don't have to wear your stuff, wear it on the inside.
Tampa Bay was a pirate port. Gasparilla, the Gasparilla Parade and everything, they have a pirate festival towards the latter part of January in Florida. Galveston was also another pirate area of Jean Lafitte, as well as Barataria, the bayou, the swamps of Louisiana. That was Jean Lafitte. And while I'm like just not talking about anything, I say we've got people have been joining us, and I'm a horrible host for not like acknowledging everybody here, but it's Bernays is here. It's good to see you, sir. Ron is here. Malaya is with us. Bozzacino is here with us. Joe was here with us. I saw Donnie and Connie and Polly drop by.
Jocelyn.
And Joe is here. And if
we got a crew.
I've forgotten anybody else, my apologies. Good to see everybody here. Anybody got any questions or anything? Just throw them at us. I mean, we're just kind of just yarning now and catching up and reminiscing and just having a good time.
Yeah, it's good to see everybody. I'm sorry I'm not commenting in the chat. I just kind of showed up today, so I didn't really sign up. I just showed up, so it was really great.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like
Jules doing this. This is great, Jules. Good on you, girl. This is
Sharon and me are voluntary on the ship.
So you're saying you were not pressed gang into service. You just voluntarily did this.
I volunteered. The ship I was on is not someplace I want to stay anymore. So I'm more than happy to sign the paper with a big X.
And that's good because my waters don't necessarily, you don't have to, I mean, I sail everywhere. I mean, the cosmos, water, land.
Love it. That's great. And it's been great to dress up. That was a really fun part of today. And looking up some of this information. And
and dressing up, I've heard about, I was watching a thing about how clothes do empower you to a degree, right? And if you look good, you feel good and all that, right? Anyway, but when I dressed up as a pirate, I felt it come over me. It was like, no one's going to stuff around me today. And I actually felt it come out. And it's quite comfortable after a while, I found.
Yeah.
I didn't think I'd be able to sit here with a hat because I don't normally wear hats.
Oh, I know. This like shirt, you can't, it looks black, but it's like this really rich forest green. but I like it, and I'm
It's
actually going to
comfortable.
contact the company and ask them, hey, can you make one of these in hot pink?
That would be cool.
The hot pink pirate
Because it's
shirt.
perfect. It has like all the lace eyelets and everything, and this
Nice.
the Renaissance style, and the sleeves that actually tie. It's like I totally like it, but I wish it was pink.
I don't know. You look good in black too. That looks really good on you. Looks very good. Hello,
Um,
Malaya. It's good to see you too. Yeah.
yes, they definitely dress up as a pirate just to make you feel like it just makes you feel strong.
It does make me feel. I was thinking, it was really weird. So I put the makeup on, took like only 15 minutes, and I went and found this today and I just thought I love the makeup. I just love the makeup. I put a couple of jewelry things and
Yeah, right. Yeah.
and I thought this is so cool. I agree with you. It was like I've never been a pirate, like for Halloween. And I thought, yeah, I could get used to this. But again, based on what we're talking about today, maybe that's why. And I just, like I said, I hadn't thought about it.
Yeah, up until last night, this was just all for fun, and then it's like, wait a minute, this actually kind of ties in with what's going on now and has always gone on.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
It does. We're going to start a revolution, a pirate revolution. Get your pirate on.
Carried on. Well, it's kind of a happy thing, and it's a distance. Again, it's kind of, it's part of the new parallel. We're on the parallel walk, right? The road less traveled. And it's yeah, maybe who knows, maybe we were pirates in the past life. Who knows? One of our lifetimes here, we sailed the seas and did a little pillaging and drinking of the rum, and who knows? Maybe that's how I got to be afraid of the ocean.
Yeah.
Perhaps. I mean, I like the ocean. I've been diving a couple of times, but long cruise out in deep water like that, I haven't. I'm not saying I wouldn't. I just haven't had the opportunity.
So are you somebody who likes being on the water like that? Do you think you'd like it?
I like being on the water, but I also like knowing there's land nearby.
Yeah, I know.
I've been on.
It was a trip watching that movie Titanic. I did watch it at the theater. It was like, I am never going on a ship. I am never going. I'm not doing this. I'm not doing this.
Yeah, there's a lot of interesting things about the Titanic, and
there's another story.
All
The facts. Let's just say. The thing that really mystifies me is that was it the fire below was going for days before anybody did anything about it, and because they all were so arrogant, they thought it would never sink. I mean, there's just all kinds of, like, all the rich people that were on it, and they disappeared, whatever, all that dark stuff. But yeah, I mean, that's another story that's just kind of makes you go,
It does. And funny you brought it up, because not long ago I was looking at the Titanic survivors, and they're pretty old film clips now. We were little kids, I think, when they were still alive, and they took in the 60s, and they took a little video of them, and I was watching a couple, and they kind of all said the same, but you could tell it was like scripted, and then I watched one where she must have went out of script, because they all started panicking, and she said we weren't waiting long before we got picked up. Now, all the others said, we were there overnight till the next morning, half of us died, right? And she's like, oh, no, the so-and-so ship came, we weren't waiting long. And they're like panicking because she said it. And I'm thinking, wow, is that the truth I just heard? And the rest of it's fabricated? Why did they react? Because she said that. And the others were like stiff in what they were saying, because they weren't going to move from what they were told. Oh, yes, and we did this, and this happened, and that happened. And I should find the clip. But it was totally different, and that's what she said. They didn't wait long for the other ship to come and pick them up. And I'm thinking, hang on a minute, there's a bit of a thing here. What's going on? So,
Well, isn't that in the movie with what's her face? Didn't they actually come at night, right? Don't they come at night and come and pick them up?
they picked them up. Yep.
Right, the one with DiCaprio and what's her face? Because he died. I mean, he freezes to death, right? And then, but she gets. I thought that they got picked up fairly quickly. Yeah, it wasn't like they were all in those lifeboats.
Yeah, the pirates came and saved them. No, but there is discrepancy in the time they waited, because they'd have us believe that they waited a long time and there was only so many survivors, but apparently there were lots, and they didn't wait very long at all. So,
well, interesting, they didn't have enough lifeboats for everybody.
Well, common sense tells you if you're going to get on a boat like that and you've got lifeboats, you want to make sure there's plenty. Like I wouldn't get on a boat. I'd count them first before I got on. No, I'm not going on there.
Yep.
Pick one with your name.
Bernays says discipline will continue till morale improves.
Right, exactly. Well, you know, it kind of goes to some of the stories we've all heard about so many things that obviously conveniently, you know, well, to the victor goes the spoils, right? To the victor, they're the ones that write the history. Mm-hmm. And we know who's been writing the history, right?
Yeah, well, it's not in their favour to say pirates were free people that looked after their mob and, you know.
That were decent people that had families, that maybe they did this because they didn't have money, and they, you know, there were reasons some of them did it. It's not an excuse for stealing from people, but it offers a very different reason.
Yeah, because stealing's a funny thing. I'll tell you a little story. When
because of my screen, you guys aren't moving.
Your book. Yeah, you can't see it because it's black and
yeah. So it's this book that I'm getting ready to start reading in the next day or so.
What's the name of it?
It is called Jean Lafitte Revealed: Unraveling One of America's Longest Running Mysteries. And mystery is in the sense that this is the pirate that helped Andrew Jackson basically helped the States win the Battle of War of 1812. Jean Lafitte, he basically ran a smuggling business through a shop and on Bourbon Street in New Orleans. Mm-hmm. And he has eluded history, and in mid-2021, a mother and daughter kind of like research historian team, they were both teaching at universities, put two and two together and came across his trail, and they found historical documents, and they found Jean Lafitte's sword inside a Masonic temple, a Freemason home in Lincolnton, North Carolina, and they took it off the wall, and his initials are in it, and it's the same style sword that was military government issued only in the War of 1812.
Wow.
And they've found him, and history has him dying in the late 1820s, and he was around. He lived to be nearly 80 years old. So he's got many aliases, and the alias that he ended up using is Farrar, which is blacksmith. And coincidentally, he did his smuggling out of a blacksmith shop on Bourbon Street.
Wow.
It's going to be an interesting story. And I didn't realize until I kind of came across Jean Lafitte that the entire pop culture with Pirates of the Caribbean, the original Pirates of the Caribbean from 1967 was actually based on Jean Lafitte. You go through the bayou, and then there's the fireflies. And me and Luna wrote it last night. I found it on YouTube. So after we said we went theme parking last night.
Yeah, it was fun.
You're talking about the Disney thing, right?
Yeah, the original Disney attraction was based off of Jean Lafitte, because one of the
most popular things they've ever had. It is an amazing ride.
Right? It's completely different than the one that's in Florida. The one that's in California is literally two times as long, if not longer, than the Florida version.
Wow.
We don't have nothing like that here. I was explaining to Jules. We should have a pirate here. Someone open a pirate place in Australia where you can go and be a pirate for the day and go on a boat and have all these rides.
I'll do it. I'll do it.
I love that idea. You have to dress up, or you can't get on the ship, and you go to the reef, visit the Great Barrier Reef, which I know it's up in the but
if you don't dress up, you get to swab the poop deck, or you get to go up on the crow's nest.
That's right. That's right. Or they'll kill haul you.
I think pirates are coming back. I've been on. We've got a little sail ship left over from the old days, and they gave it to our people so we can run cultural tours. And I actually got on it, and I remember getting on. My first step of getting on, I'm looking down, and there was the little plank from the land to the water, and I remember having to put my big girl pants on and take a deep breath and be brave and step onto that boat. And I realised at that moment I did have a little fear. But once I got on there, it didn't bother me. I was underneath on top. We went with school and a heap of teachers, and it was actually nice. And I was telling Jules yesterday, the original wooden table in there is really thick, beautiful wood, and you can, when you touch it, you can feel the oldness. Like I'm one of them people who touch things and get like visions, and you can feel it. And it was just really nice, and it took away my fear of getting on the water and that, because I think maybe because I wasn't far away from land, you could see it all the time. I don't know, I'm iffy. I'm 50-50, you know. I can sort of handle it, but I've got to get
there's my parrot.
Oh, there's your parrot, look. I was wondering when they were coming. Mine forgot.
Right on cue.
Well, I guess they didn't have cats on ships, though. They would have been great mousers, right? But then you'd have
but they would also have been tasty on the lip.
I would have ate them.
Yeah.
But wouldn't that be sensible? Because they would have had lots of babies real quick, though.
I imagine some of those parrots got eaten too.
Oh yeah, I would imagine.
That's another
the big mouth parrot that didn't know when to shut up. It would be dinner.
Oh my God.
Makes you wonder. I'm sure that all kinds of situations would arise. Oh, that's what I was going to say. Now, to be a pirate and be on a sailing ship with sails that need tended to, and you've got all those things we talked about that you've got to tend to, and you're in a little space for a very long time with other people. Now, wouldn't it occur to people that they would be very nice because they would have had to get on with each other 24/7?
Yeah.
And I don't know, what's a crew consist of? At least.
The crew, you had the quartermaster, you had the bosun, you had the carpenter, the musician, the captain, first mate, powder monkey. There were different. There were different kinds of ships.
Yeah, you would have had like 15, 20 people at least, right? All living together in a small space 24/7. Now, to do that, you have to learn to get on with people. You'd learn, they would have been all right people.
Oh yeah, that was being the captain's articles, that you do not fight while you're on ship. You hold your grudges until you get to land.
And wouldn't you rather be around someone like that can handle themselves around other people than in the populace where they got no idea? It just occurred to me while we were doing this show, hang on, they're in a small space. You got to learn to get on with people. You would have been all right people.
Mm-hmm.
I've got a whole different view of pirates now.
And then, and interesting that you're bringing this up because, you know, I was brought up in the Navy, and there's a big thing about going on shore and getting drunk and getting in fights. And I'm wondering if that was letting off steam from being on the ship for so many months. You know what I mean? Like you were just looking to hit somebody. You know, all that, because living with people is not easy. I'm sure they didn't share their feelings being guys. And, you know, with all due respect to the men here, but I don't, you know, having worked with men, that's just not their thing. And so then you go to shore, right? And you get the bars and you just
I got 6 months of aggression to pay out on you. She looked at me the wrong way.
Well, there was boxing. My dad was a boxer. And
Didn't they look like this in the old days?
yeah, my dad, no, he was
Like that?
actually pretty
Now it's like that.
supposedly he was pretty good. So I think that's another thing they did is they had boxing. So that was, it was with referees and, all that stuff. But that's another way to let people get out their aggression and also watching it, all that kind of stuff. So then you had sports events.
Yeah, I was going to say that. You would have skilled sports events. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sounds fun. Sounds weird.
Yeah, you just had to make sure you had a lot of women on board. So,
Well, that's something I want to bring up because we have mentioned our gender, like us, a couple of times and shit. And we're all led to believe that a woman on board is bad luck. But in reality, there were women on board all the time. And
Right.
women even captained the ship. So why? See how someone's waving this bullshit in?
Yeah, Jules, did you happen to see anything on why women were bad luck on ships?
Not necessarily.
Didn't see anything.
I mean, I didn't find concrete evidence that women were bad luck on ships. It was more so captains' articles, because I mean, I think that was largely like embellished throughout history because if you were from a business sense, if you were a captain and you had women on your ship, it's a major distraction. You're going to get less productivity out of your crew. There's jealousy, there's animosities, there's lust, there's all those things. And the easiest way to avoid all of that is to not allow them on your ship.
Yeah. So maybe that's just, but again, that could have been Hollywood. I mean, how long is women are bad luck on our ship? I mean, where did that come from?
Well, I mean, sailors and pirates were superstitious.
Right.
The rowanwood, they would carry branches of rowanwood on their ships because they believed that would help them protect them during storms. And I found out it wasn't just the rowan wood. They would make a salve for their eyes from the leaves.
And you know what I found out what was weird? When they come onto land, they always carried a stick.
I think I just looked it up on Google. Women were bad luck on because they distracted the crew, like you said, Jules, which would anger the sea, causing treacherous conditions as revenge. So we made the sea mad. However, conveniently for the male crew, naked women calmed the sea, which is why so many figureheads were women with bare breasts. What a contradiction.
Yeah, something going on
That's
there.
hilarious.
What about all the female pirates? Like, yeah. I wish I had a time machine right now. We'd all be going and we'd spend 3 hours on a pirate ship.
Yeah, so the infamous green light that is talked about, and I think it's Pirates of the Caribbean 2 or 3, but I've often heard people talk about the green light, the green flash of light at sunset. It's a reflection of light, the way that you're looking at it when you're looking at it on the horizon. But to the pirates, they actually believe if they were fortunate enough to see that green light, they were able to see in the souls of people and know if they were lying.
Ooh. I've only seen it once. Because I wanted to try and see that, and I just saw a speck of it once. That was it.
And it doesn't last for very long, apparently.
No, flash, and it's hard to see the sun.
You know, all the pirate, like the crew, they all wouldn't have come from one country. They would have all come from all different walks of life. And what I found listening to all this information is you got these people from different walks of life, religion, and sometimes language. They get on a ship, and all of a sudden they're all under one thing, and they all agree to live under it, no matter where they come from or what they believe. They're doing it together. I think that's pretty cool.
Well, I think that's what's happening with this, the coming across the border, and no matter what country you're in, all this border stuff is what happens is nobody's under one rule or a one set of laws or one constitution. Like it used to be many, many years ago, people would learn in America, people would learn about the Constitution. And I know they demanded people speak English, but it kind of kept it cohesive, right? We were trying to keep the culture. And I think the way that immigration is happening now is it's diluting the culture. And that's why people are getting upset. And so if you go back to the pirate thing, you have to have something cohesive if you're going to work together, if it's going to work, right? One guy in charge, one person in charge, you've signed up for the rules, everybody's playing at the same place, so there's equality, and everybody's got the same goals. It's like, okay, let's go.
Yeah, so Buzz just asked a question. And he says, a silly question. If women were bad luck on ships, why would the captain have the authority to marry people? And it's an interesting question in the sense that I honestly can't speak for everybody, but looking at it, kind of tying into the conversation we were just having, if the captain, it was his ship, it was his rules, his standards, it seems like he kind of, in a sense, has a floating city, a floating democracy, a floating state. And he would have the authority to do anything and everything. That's how I see it. I mean, and Buzz, I'm sorry if I didn't answer your question. I tried.
We are a real live seafarer.
But also,
Chat room.
there were dudes who weren't romantic with each other, but on paper they were claimed. I mean, that's how they kept their wealth. They coupled together and they combined their wealth to keep it. So to other people, they were married. They were a couple. But I'm sorry, you were saying something, Luna?
I see we got a real live seafarer in our chat room.
We do.
Yes. Spent a couple of years on the ocean in the Navy. It'd be interesting, know some laws there. Sea law.
Yeah, and the maritime law.
So the question we had yesterday was, so we have maritime law and we have land law, which is spelled LORE, it's different. Now, the question I come up with was, and I'm interested to hear everybody's opinion here, at the bottom of the water is land. So we actually are LORE, law, and it's just the water on top. And why have they imposed the water law on the land when there's land at the bottom of the water? Is that a clear cut enough? Yeah.
It's all about taxation and money.
Maybe we should become mermaids. They can't tax us anymore.
I don't know. I'd be a fairly chunky mermaid. But yeah, we've been on for a couple of hours, and as they say with pirates, it's easy to talk about and lose track of time. And I could yarn longer, but it's not all about me, because I've enjoyed my time with you, Nanogirl and Luna. Thank you both for joining me tonight.
Thank you, Jules. It's been fun.
Thank you to everybody in chat.
This is great. It was like old times coming back and doing the show.
Yeah, it was fun.
I sure miss the show, and I miss our buddy. So anyway, I'll just throw that out there real quick. But so this was really nice to connect with everybody, and
yeah,
it was a great subject. Good job.
And actually, Ron just answered it for us. So you can have a wife in every port.
Exactly.
Waiting.
Or if you're a female pilot, you can have a report. I'll chuck that in. Yeah. So anyway, love to you, everybody. Love to you on this day. Thank you, Cannabis Resolution.
Yes,
Buzz, thank
yes,
you.
Buzz, Cannabis Resolution, Ron, Joe, Connie, whoever I'm forgetting. And again, thank you, Luna, and thank you, Nanogirl.
Yeah, and it's good to see you again, Nanogirl.
Oh, it's good to see you too.
Too long, I think it was.
It looks like everyone's doing okay, and that's nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're doing all right. And well, until next time.
Okay.
Until next time, and it's next week. It's party at Luna's house.
We
rotate.
Right, party at Luna's.
Yep, we share channel.
So, I'll see you guys in a couple of weeks here on the Bittersweet. Next week we're at Luna's.
Yep, and you're welcome over there. And yeah, I don't know what we're doing yet. As long as I don't have to dress up as a mermaid, I'm happy.
You can dress up as whatever you want. I might even dress up as a Jules tomorrow.
Ooh, I don't know. I like this pirate thing. I'm going to start something. I think we should the pirate revolution.
There you go.
Viva la revolution.
Viva la pirate revolution.
Okay. So
all right.
Thank you.
I love you, landlubbers. And next time, my hat's off to you.
Yep, I'll do it. There you go. Well, it gets pretty warm under here, man.